I like to start many times my lectures with the project of Santa Caterina, because Santa Caterina is a project that I love especially. It has a kind of a very special history, very much related to our history. And it was the very first project that we started in Barcelona as Barcelona people when I was working together with my late husband, Enric Miralles, and we were doing nearly nothing. But at a certain point, we started to protest about some changes that we were doing in our area. Let's say we live here. You see, now you know where is our house. We bought a very old house, which was a total ruin, and that's why it was very cheap at the time. And then we discovered that this neighborhood, which was totally forgotten, was fantastic, and we started to love it very much. We started to buy at the very old market of Santa Caterina, and then when we read that they were deciding to make a transformation, we really wanted to help in this transformation, so that this piece of city wouldn't be destroyed. And in fact, this is not only a piece, it's a transformation of this complete piece of city, which was going to be turned down and destroyed. And we started to work on it in order to make it more fluid, in order to make it more in synchrony with what was existing. Of course, this is the beginning. No? You see, the beginning of this project was a very grey Barcelona with this last century wall, and behind here, the old Gothic city was very, very closed. So what we wanted and what we tried was, together with the city, opening up this piece of city, making this more fluid, making this a passage of people, and making this market something that you find, that everybody sees, and that everybody wants to go to. So this project was very complex. It had a monastery before. So the monastery meant a church, tombs, a lot of skeleton. And when we started to dig, we started to find all this history. History was totally present, was totally there. And to us was really a lesson working on this project about how to relate to history, and how history, in fact, is always present. Because when we touch something which is historical, history is there. And this was really very strong. The project was very slow, and our acting on top of these ruins, on top of these skeletons that we were finding, was really like being in a continuity with this fantastic history, which was the history of Santa Caterina and the first people finding it a kind of a sacred place. So also we were kind of respecting what we were finding. We were respecting also the old walls of the 19th century market that was built on top of the monastery. And we just wanted to make a roof which was like a very as light as possible on top of the old structures, making something like a place which is attractive, and it's like a closed public space. So it's a piazza. And we realized that the market is a fantastic place for the senses. When I went to Barcelona, I discovered how markets were incredible places where you go inside and you are treated very well by the people, and you have these colors and smells and something really full of happiness. So we thought that this happiness should arrive into the street, because this was the best way to attract everybody coming from the cathedral, from the center, into this part of the city which was forgotten. And that's why we started with this kind of joke saying, okay, maybe we will put fruit and vegetables on top of the roof of Santa Caterina. And the roof would be visible from all over, from the other side of Via Laietana. And before, this was a place which was very closed, very invisible. And this big color roof had the function to attract to a place which was until then totally forgotten, and to make a kind of a curiosity so that people would discover a kind of a new place, which in fact was already existing, and would discover the fantastic thing of finding a market and the activity of a market in Barcelona. We were working very much with traditional people, with traditional artisans. One of the best was for sure the one who was doing the ceramic on top of the roof. Ceramic is a tradition in Barcelona. Many roofs have ceramic, maybe not so colorful, but the important buildings have colorful ceramic. And so we were changing the technique by doing a kind of a wooden roof, and on top of the wooden roof with a very strong glue, which we always hope it will last for a very, very long time, we put these big ceramic tiles, so that many ceramic tiles put together in a big one would do kind of very big pixels, forming this piece of fruit and vegetable and sensorial attraction for the citizens of Barcelona, or every citizen, to be attracted in this place, which was before a kind of a cul-de-sac, where nobody was going, which was not attractive at all, and which was absolutely closed, and also full of thieves and people who was robbing bags to the ladies, and so on and so on. But now this is, let's say, the new landscape of Santa Catarina. While we were doing the roof, well, the city was paying for this renovation of the new market. Also, each one of the housing in the surrounding started to paint or repaint their facade. So it meant very much how important it is to make a renovation move, so that everyone in the city is moving in the same direction of respect and love for the piece of city. So coming from a derelict place to a kind of a restored place. And this is now the inside of the market. And what I like very much is when we go there to the market is to look at the reality. You know, this was a very difficult social situation. And now it's very nice to see how this very mixed social situation is maybe helped by a new public space, by a new, very civic building, to become a kind of a more pacified piece of city, where people can live together much easier, and maybe where they can also meet each other and become friends, as it happens, for example, in these photos, to these two boys, very evidently from two different ethnic origins, but in a public space and playing together, they can become friends very, very easily. So now I try to do this complicated thing, so to put a video, because there was a very nice video made in 2002 by a good filmmaker called Bigas Luna. He is a friend of mine, and at the time I was so lucky that he decided to make a 3-minute video explaining the project in a time where the project was not built. So now that nearly 10 years has passed, I think it's nice to try to see it. So if you're patient, we have 3 minutes to look at the film.
El que més m'ha agradat de l'estudi de la Benedetta és la forma en què treballen. Són un estudi ple de vida, molt lluminós. Les maquetes, la llum i els volums tenen per ells una gran importància i és magnífic com ho treballen tots. Ho fan tot amb les mans.
This is a Bigas idea, no? To look at everything in a blurred way. Maybe he was interpreting well, no? We like very much to mix, as if you're looking not very much in focus. This is a good system to go on with projects. 3 languages. So this in Catalonia is very necessary. Catalan, Spanish, English.
El Mercat de Santa Catarina és una obra que per l'estudi de la Benedetta té una significació molt especial. Està molt vinculada a les seves vides, al seu barri, als seus fills i amics de records.
Empezó siendo nuestro mercado, siendo nuestro barrio. El barrio Santa Catarina era nuestro barrio. Fue una casualidad. El mercado Santa Catarina fue un encargo que se llevó bajo el brazo mi hija Catarina, que había nacido 6 meses antes. Entonces después ya pensamos que Catarina era un nombre casi como mágico y nos dimos cuenta que Santa Catarina estaba atada muy estrechamente con San Domenech, bromeando sobre el tema que el próximo se tenía que llamar Domenech, y así pasó. Empezamos protestando como vecinos y acabamos teniendo el encargo de ser el mercado. Entonces, bueno, ya te notas estas responsabilidades que has pedido antes, de cuidar que este trozo de ciudad viva otra vez a través del mercado, porque este mercado es el corazón. Si funciona el mercado, funciona el barrio Santa Catarina. Si no funciona, el barrio se cae, como se ve ahora durante las obras. El mercado Santa Catarina era un monasterio, un espacio donde el cielo se abría, y todavía lo era. Realmente, si llegas a esta grande explanada, te das cuenta de su escala en relación al resto de la ciudad por la cantidad de cielo que tiene presente. Y en el lugar del mercado la cantidad de cielo es enorme. Entonces casi puedes dibujar qué le pasa al espacio de la ciudad vieja dibujando el cielo, mirando arriba. Those are the ruins. El mercado es la plaza. En catalán también se dice la plaza. Y para nosotros ha sido importante conservar esta idea de la transparencia, de un lugar que pasa a través. Sea un espacio abierto donde se hace comercio y que por la noche, cuando ya el comercio no está, es la plaza, es el lugar público. Estos muros que conservamos son casi de la misma importancia de los muros nuevos que haremos, entonces convivirán todos juntos. Porque siempre habíamos pensado que era importante mantener vacío el lugar de los ábsides, y realmente podemos conservar por debajo de la plaza los ábsides de las iglesias, y además se podrá bajar y se podrán visitar.
La relació de la Benedetta amb els seus col·laboradors és sempre part d'un procés on la humanitat i el talent van sempre junts.
Okay, I understood that this was the voice was on a different point, but never mind. I think it was very nice for me also to see again this Market Santa Catarina, what it meant to do this this work. It was really a very big effort in the middle of the city. A very big also courage in the city people, also in the archaeological people, who helped very much. They could have blocked everything, but in fact they were very cooperative, very personal, and this like a little miracle happened, even if it's in one of the very, very complicated piece of city. And I think these things in the cities don't happen so often. Maybe to have Santa Catarina happening, something like 200 years to pass by. You know, this city transforming, also Cerdà, the plans for renovation, everything remained as a kind of a plan until at one moment there is the energy or the capacity or the special situation where things happen. And I like to remember this every time we do a project. It's a kind of a miraculous situation. And here in the landscape, you see that there is another building which is a design of ours in the Barceloneta. It's a special building for a company, for the gas company, who wanted a very symbolic building in the same place where they had their own property more than 100 years ago, where they started their company. This is a very fantastic thing to do. You say, we are still here, but now we are very powerful, and we go on with our company. And we did a symbolic building which sometimes becomes totally transparent. Here it's very nice in this kind of photograph that it's totally invisible, and you detect the building from the shadow. Because the building is a kind of high for Barcelona, is 20 stories, kind of 90 meters high. But it's also very much mixing or mingling with the volumes, with the rest of the city of de la Barceloneta, with the very fast motorway, and is changing from every point of view, from the sea, or where you also see the rest of the landscape with the Sagrada Familia. Also, it's changing from the back. This scheme that we have been chosen is a scheme which is making the building kind of invisible, because it's reflecting the sky, and when you're in the sky, it's reflecting the earth. But mainly, it has this civic approach. No, it's a company, but instead of being a kind of making out the rest of the city, the main place, the main entry of the building is a street. Is a kind of a fracture inside the building, which makes the possibility to go from one place to the other, where you find the park, and where you have this kind of entry space, which is public. So the people of the company, they change very much. At the beginning, they understood that, but at the end, they were maybe changing and say, oh, but our real entry inside is not so tall. They say, okay, but your real entry is in the outside, and it's very, very civic. And other projects we did in Barcelona were the project of Diagonal Mar, which was also a kind of a special project for us, because it was the first time that we were working with an American promoter. The American promoter was called Gerald Hines, and now in Milan you have a lot of things happening with the hands of Gerald Hines. But Gerald Hines arrived in Europe with these projects, with Diagonal Mar, with a lot of high-rise building, and we were in charge of the public space which should change, let's say, the type of city where the operation had to be done. So our idea was to make a park with a kind of a transition between this urban, very tough city. And so to make this transition, you were finding these piazzas, and these piazzas with the hard pavimentation and these semi-natural elements like the pergolas or like the fountains and the ceramic, which will introduce to this more natural feeling, which makes people kind of happy or wish to play, or kind of forgetting about the hardship of living in a city. Also, I like very much, in a way, when this park was finished, the vibration of the light. I found it very, very special, and I was very impressed and very struck when a lady who was nearly blind came to me and said, you know, this vibration of light in your park was so important to me that I made these photographs. So the photographs that you are seeing now are done by a nearly blind lady who was just attracted by this kind of special vibration of this artificial nature that we were doing in Diagonal Mar Park. And I think most of our architecture, when people ask what is maybe the main feature, maybe it is an architecture which is trying very much to be totally mingled with topography. And in this project, which is in Vigo, this is happening very, very much. We actually spent a long time with the clients of this university, which is in the north of Spain, to try to convince them that they needed money not only for the buildings, but they needed money to make the building and the topography work together, so that this piece of mountain would transform into a civic place with a piazza, with elevated buildings which work to make the view visible, or other buildings inside the mountain, so that everything is like a transformed piece of mountain. And to do that, you also have to touch the mountain itself. You have to make the artificiality of everything becoming a new nature. This also was happening while we were working in the Scottish Parliament. We won the competition for the new Scottish Parliament. It was a real surprise to us, and it was one of the most difficult projects we've ever had. But we won it saying that we wanted to start the gesture for the Parliament in a piece of land which was not even belonging to the Parliament. This was belonging to the Queen. And we were saying we need a kind of a gesture in the land, a kind of an amphitheater, so that on top of this amphitheater, the rest of the Parliament, which is a series of amphitheater, would be standing. So coming from the beautiful nature of this mountain here, the amphitheater in the landscape would sustain the complex of the new Scottish Parliament, which is mingling with the old city. And you see, this is the Queen. And when I met the Queen then in the opening, she came to say, the architect, this is very interesting. I was watching the building growing from my windows. Of course, you can see that the Queen can say this. And maybe she didn't like it. Probably she didn't like it, of course. Knowing her son's taste, you can understand that she didn't like it very much. But she accepted that maybe contemporary architecture is a little different from what she's used to. And a little house, which was called Queensberry House, was totally integrated into the complex. And from this street, which is an old street, the Royal Mile, you don't notice the building until you are nearly here. And then you find really the complexity of this building, and you find the entry, and you can enter and notice this series of strange geometries. And this is the entry, which I was very proud about, but now they are building a kind of a new wall, making this exterior and interior. They, of course, have said nothing to me. And this is also something which is sometimes happening to buildings, and you don't know very well what to do, if to make protests or to just forget and go to another building, and knowing that the buildings have their lives. And sometimes, as an architect, you cannot be there all the time babysitting. So we tried our best, and we tried to give our best to the Scottish people. And I think one of the nicest things is the debating chamber, the real place where the politicians take decisions, which is looking like a boat, because this was the idea. No competition between Edinburgh and Glasgow or other cities in Scotland. You know, Scottish people, they always fight between each other. They have clans, and they love to hate each other. So that's why we did a place for taking decision, which is like a boat, and which is like being in open sea. And Scottish people here can remember that they were fantastic sailors and fantastic pirates, and this was probably the source of their wealth and their capacities. So we did this building with great love, and after that we had many other opportunities in other cities in Europe, which is something kind of new, as I was telling you before. Speaking English is something very new to us, but maybe we will have to do it more and more in the future. And we had to speak English, trying to understand each other in Hamburg, where we won a competition for retransforming the old harbor, which is this one, into a piece of city. And looking at the big picture of the harbor, you can understand why, because the harbor now is so enormous that the small one, this small piece of old harbor, it's too small to work as a harbor anymore. And so we had to make an effort to transform this very, very, very big dimension into a human dimension, and also to make a kind of transition between the different levels, the level of the water, the level of the city. This is a dangerous water. And to make things happen in these big spaces, because we thought that when we had a lot of things happening in the harbor, the eyes were very much entertained. But now that you don't have any boats anymore, you don't have any activities anymore, you have to reinvent entertainment for the city, things happening, the possibility to go with bicycles, the possibility to contemplate the water. And that's why here we used a lot of materials, and we fragmented the perimeters of the harbor, because we thought it was very necessary in these big dimensions to make a lot of things happening and a lot of vibration, as I was saying before, in the Park of Diagonal Mar. And this photograph is very much, it was on top of our tables when we were doing the project. Our aim is to transform the Hamburg Hafen City again into something as entertaining and fantastic as it was when this was a harbor and when everybody was going there just for the curiosity of looking at it. So now I'm happy that we kind of made Hamburg a little more like Barcelona. You know, the first discussions that they had with us when we first won the competition was, oh, you are very Barcelona people, but Barcelona has a different climate. Here in Hamburg is very different. And it's true, but the people is so happy when they have the possibility to be in the outside, that you see what happens during beautiful days in Saturdays and Sundays. And so I did this photograph to have the proof that people is actually using the Hamburg Hafen City exactly as a Barcelona space, or maybe even more. So we were playing very much in Hamburg with also the traditions of it, and making a kind of a transformation of the tradition. And we had very recently the possibility to enlarge a music school that we had to finish some years ago, more than 10 years ago. This music school was in our mind around this beautiful tree. We said, oh, we will do a building which is so delicate that will be, let's say, molded by a beautiful tree. And it was also in the courtyard of an old existing school. And the inside of it was full of colors, because we were really trying very much to transform in this school the sound of music into architecture somehow. No? You know, it's very difficult. You know, it's something that we always have in mind, art and architecture, how to make art and architecture live together. We tried. And very recently we had to enlarge this building, doing a new auditorium, which would be accessible from the city. So this was not easy, because we were invading the garden itself. This is the old one, and the new one is here. And we were trying in a way to conceive the new auditorium or something in symphony with the existing building, and similar but not totally the same, in a way kind of connecting with the music school that we had been finishing 10 years ago, and becoming like a little brother, let's say. So they were so nice to give the name of my late husband, Enrique Miralles, to this new building. And we tried our best also to continue with this idea of making the architecture becoming similar to sound, or expressing sound. And in this sense, we did this auditorium becoming like a klang, let's say, like a visible klang in the outside. And the material is the same as we were using in the other building, but of course is used in a different way. And this invasion of the space is, I think, becoming even better, so that the building is becoming like a series of porches, and people can meet each other when they are underneath here. So I think you should buy Matteo Zeruta's magazine, because now this is explained much better than I could explain, because he did some new fantastic drawings and choose the fantastic photographs. So I think the music school is very well explained there. But then, talking about traveling, I think the big travel we had been making in 2007 was the one that is now presently changing our life. We did this competition for the new Spanish Pavilion without believing that we would win it. We thought this is a very ministerial thing, you know, when you do this kind of things, depending from Madrid, you don't really believe that they look at it. But they did, and we proposed a kind of a pavilion which was dealing with fantastic craftsmanship, which in Spain is very strong, and it's nearly forgotten, which is this working with wicker or with palm trees, and creating tools which usually were used in the countryside, and that in China are still used in the countryside. So we thought that this would be also a kind of demonstration of a language, which is a hand language, which is the same in Spain and in China. And this was useful because an expo is a kind of a bridge, especially this one, it was the first expo in China. And so we thought that this idea of using this material in a big scale was a good effort, because it was really reflecting about many things, about this bridge given by the hands, and also this possibility of changing a tradition and reinventing it, and making a little less the difference between building cities or abandoning countrysides, especially in a place like China, where this separation is very, very strong. So the bones of the building we thought would be in iron structure, and then the dress of the building, really like a dress like Miyake, let's say, on top of the bones, but very, very moved, very not like a flat surface. So in order to study this, that we didn't know how it would be, because we never designed a wicker dress, we used the office, and the office is always full of people making models and working with their hands, and we tried very much to make this miniature tries of how the new dress for the Spanish Pavilion could be. We wanted it to be three-dimensional. We wanted it to be something kind of moving on top of the bones. And this was, at the end, what we decided, no? Something which was go on top of the very complex geometry, but also becoming a complex geometry in itself. And from whichever place you look at it, is kind of different. So these were the first tries that we did in Spain, the prototypes. And then also we realized that the prototypes had 3 different colors, because you can treat wicker in different ways, so that we could design or write a calligraphy on top of the building. So we did this kind of poetry, and the poetry was transferred then on top of the building, on top of the facade, so that there is a kind of a series of words, a series of things which nobody can really read, but we knew what they were meaning, so that little by little these different colors of the wicker would disappear, because the sun and the wind and the rain is making everything of one sole color. And this is the plan of the Spanish Pavilion, where one of the important material is the people. So the people is making queues. In fact, they were doing, and they were entering here, and here they were the exhibitions, and then going out, but also entering again into the smaller exhibitions and into the other places with the restaurants and little auditorium and things like that. So in order not to break all the continuity, we also designed the furniture, and we started construction with a kind of curiosity. We have never looked at a construction in China. We didn't know how they would work. And we discovered again that the language of hands is universal. So also the language of intelligence of construction is very universal, so that many of the gestures and many of the practical solutions taken by the builders in China were exactly the same that you could have in Spain, places in the world, included the nap, that in China they do very much, because they usually sleep inside the work. And meanwhile, in another place, in the countryside, they were copying, 120 people were copying the prototypes which were sent by Spain. And they were doing very happily, you see that they are very, very, very happy. They were doing these reproductions, and they're happy because for the first time, they are doing something for a construction, for something very big. Also for the expo, they will be very visible, because these people are used to work for invisible things, for countryside, very humble tools, for things which they think they have no visibility, or maybe no future, or maybe no life, because they disappear very quickly. And so this was a kind of also a very beautiful feeling, to see that something which was unexpected was arriving in the expo, and with a kind of low high-tech technique, we were hanging them on a kind of a secondary structure, which was also depending on this very complex heads, because the geometry is very complex, so also how these panels position respect to each other was not easy at all. But at the end, this kind of high-low tech was taking place and was becoming real. You see, this is the preparation of the facade with the secondary structure, the cables preparing for holding the panels. And you see here that the structure used as traditionally in China is already the same panel itself. It's very much a manual thing. So they were hanging these panels, and at a certain point, the facade became visible, became very, very possible, and the building transformed itself into a kind of a new friend that we discovered, a new individual, a new animal, which was then in the expo, and which became kind of well known by the people of the expo, who were very curious about these strange new buildings, and who were trying to read the words that they knew that were written on top of the facade, and they were coming back and saying it's impossible to read anything. But never mind, no? You know that this also it is very important to have words that remain in the air and remain secret. And the nice thing was also probably this this natural shadows and natural feeling that you had when you were inside the building, because the building really had this feeling of being inside a wood. You were in a very artificial place, which is the expo, but this building had a special shadow, also had a special climate because of the 2 layers of wicker inside and outside, and the glass inside. And also it had a smell, it had a change during the time, so it became really something very, very special. And I'm sure it's too long, this lecture, it's too long. But we will go little by little. In China, after the Spanish Pavilion, they said, oh, they are good in doing pavilion. Maybe they can do a kind of a Spanish-Chinese pavilion in a place called Neijiang in Sichuan. You know, Sichuan was Tibet before. And here was born a painter called Tsanda Chen, who is the one of this stature, who is considered one of the best painters now in the century, because he is now, his work is more valued than the one of Picasso. But they met each other, and so they wanted to celebrate, also in the place where he was born, the fact that Picasso and Zanda Chen met, so that Zanda Chen is the Chinese Picasso. And we went back to the moment where Picasso and Zanda Chen actually met, and when Picasso drew with brushes that Zanda Chen gave him, this painting of Zanda Chen, which is very funny and really looking like a strange satire or a little insect with a fantastic eyes. So we decided to use this as a kind of a footprint, and to imagine that each one of this footprint would be a pavilion, one pavilion, creating a kind of a loop of pavilion going around an existing tea house in a place in Neijiang. And we were making the shapes inspiring by his paintings and his own figures. And so this is the proposal we are giving to the Neijiang people for the Zanda Chen museum, where this old tea house is maintained and gives access to this series of pavilions, which make you look at a special garden, and also are something which will happen inside the pavilions, which probably will not be original paintings because they have no collection at all. But this doesn't seem to be a very great problem in China. They like very much to invent new ways of displaying, and probably there is a possibility to invent a fantastic display of the art of Zanda Chen, even without having any original in this place where Zanda Chen was born. So you see that here also we use a lot of compressed bamboo and mix the traditional materials with iron and with a lot of nature and a lot of gardens. And inside you have the possibility to look at these panels or displays or films or whatever at the end they will invent about the inside, and looking at the outside, at the garden, at the way of making gardens, which Zanda Chen was an expert about. He was a painter, but he was also a gourmet. He was cooking, he was making his own gardens, so he was a kind of a universal figure. And this was the first stone, and it was fantastic because they put it 2 years ago, and it's still only the first stone, but because political decisions in China are very slow. They always say that they can build very quickly, but not always. And the tradition of celebration is totally fantastic. So I think colors and rituals and this celebrative ways is something that we like very much, and we hope to have very soon a second celebration for the second stone. Let's see if it's possible. So now this is a nice moment, no? And also I feel very much like a diplomatic, no, in this project. Because I rediscovered also the daughters that Zanda Chen had. He was exiliated in 1949 and remained out of China until his death. So now Chinese people, they accept Zanda Chen again. And this is the governor of the region, of the Neijiang region. And this is the youngest daughter of Zanda Chen, who we happen to meet because of this project. And we organized the dinner. She's married in Madrid, and they came to Madrid, of course, for the project and for making this relationship to Picasso. And here, you know, the governor of Neijiang meets with the daughter of Zanda Chen, and it's also a fantastic opportunity to have the possibility of putting two worlds together again. So this is, to me, the privilege to be working in China or in Asia in these years. I feel very privileged, even if I know it's very difficult, it's very complicated. A lot of architects are saying that maybe it's not worthwhile, you know, to work in such a complicated situation with mainly ugly cities or very difficult urbanistic positions, but I think it's really fantastic. No, it's a new world which is happening, and being part of understanding this new world or this great dynamic is really incredible. So I was very happy to participate to this competition to make a high-rise building in Shenzhen. Shenzhen is a very special city near Hong Kong. And these are the many tries we did before being accepted by the client. Because also understanding each other is nothing easy at all. And I always show these tries because each one of them was, oh, very, very nice, very, very happy. But can you please try another one? And I understood that it was not so easy to match the desire they had in their mind about the tower, and how also I could give them something which I also liked. So we tried many different towers until we arrived to this one, which had also a fantastic name. A name is very important in China. Bamboo Tower. So, of course, there is no bamboo in the tower, but the idea is that there is this kind of natural, flexible material which is able to make also a kind of a tower which is vertical, but also very flexible, also changing slightly, so that whenever you look at it from one side or another, it's always a little different, and it's a kind of solid, but in the same time also very, very full of shadows, vibrations, and things reminding the wood of bamboo. And also, you see here in the model, this is done in wood, of course. In the reality, would be done in iron, but this looks a little like a bamboo, or maybe like these trunks growing vertically, but in a flexible way. So let's see. These are our first experiments. Let's see how they go. If they pay us, if they build it, if all these difficult things that you have whenever you go as a pioneer in a foreign land. And in a way, we are a little pioneer. I go also with Spain. Spain doesn't have a very great diplomatic relation with China. Maybe Italy has a better one. And this means you feel a little alone. So we were totally surprised when we won with this material the competition for a university in the center of Shanghai, which is called Fudan University. Fudan is, in a way, the Chinese Bocconi. And whenever you say, oh, I'm working on Fudan in China, they say, Fudan, because this is really, it means a lot. It's a name, it's the ancient university. Ancient university in China, it means 100 years ago or even less, because before they had another system of learning which was more related with the government and with the functionary positions. It's 3 blocks. And we are trying very much to make these 3 blocks as united as possible, but very much making a kind of a public space underneath, so that we know that at a certain level, the university becomes very private and also very united by many bridges. One of them is also a kind of a public elevated space. But on the ground floor, this is really becoming a kind of a place where everybody can meet, and also where you can find shops open to everybody, cafes, place to stay. So this is really becoming a kind of a mix between the city and the university, and you avoid at maximum this making a university which is a kind of a place with walls behind, with walls underneath, which makes everything very far away. Today, I don't know if you noticed, but today at 11:30, Kazuho Sejima presented the new University Bocconi. And I was not there, I was not arriving in time, But I was participating together with other 10 architects into the competition for the new Bocconi building. I think I haven't seen the Sejima scheme, but I'm sure she is fantastic and she will do a real great building for Milan, which Milan needs very much. Bocconi did this Grafton building, which I think it's really a great piece, not only for the university, but the generosity towards the city of Milan. And now they are giving a new piece, which will be very generous for the city of Milan. And we were participating in the competition very happily, kind of making a lot of collage, as you have seen. This is a collage made with part of the Bocconi family. Bocconi family at the beginning was a textile family in Milan. You know, Milan is an industrial place. But what we were trying was to also to make a place which was very open, which would connect with Parco Ravizza and with the existing campus, making a kind of open heart of a garden or a park or a piazza for all the students and the city to meet, and with the buildings around, which were a little looking like the boxes of the Bocconi people when they were dealing with texture and dresses and this kind of things. So we were trying this double thing, kind of a soft wall in the heart, relating with the building, with open space, and also a kind of a tower, which they wanted because they wanted to have this kind of visible part for the city, which would relate and would be kind of easy to identify where the Bocconi is. So our project was also with a big canopy connecting with this open heart, and the canopy was relating with a lot of ideas that you have already seen of a texture, a special texture, and a special feeling of being inside and the outside in the same time, like, as for example in this main entry here and in the public corridors that would be the spaces of Bocconi. Also, the spaces for the classes were very complex. The class building was a kind of a world in itself. And, well, now we are very curious to see what the Sejima could do. But now we are talking about Milan. And in Milan, we won 2 years ago a fantastic competition. And sometimes I have the suspect that they knew already that this competition wouldn't go on, and that's why I won it. But I'm very happy anyway. You always have to be happy of what life gives you, no? So anyway, it was beautiful to make a competition in this saffron building. I knew it from when I was a kid, of course. You know? Who doesn't know Garage Traversi if you are from Milan? It's in the center, it's yellow, and when I went inside with this occasion, I discovered that it has a very fantastic fascination, but it is very, very, very low. So you can see it's only 2 meters or a little more. So it was perfect for cars, but it is very, very difficult to make it become something for humans. So I don't think I have very beautiful photos here, but our ideas was very simple, was about cutting part of the floors. You cut here, then you cut here, then you cut here. So you always have a double height, but without sacrificing any floor, so that this building becomes human, becomes livable, but in the same time has this possibility of connecting visually from one floor to the other, and this would make it even more special. It's not, this was our way of working, you know, working with models and also thinking about what is Milan, you know, this fantastic fashion place that we are so used to. But this fashion place also would would be inspiring for us. For example, we like very much to look at people in the street and transform them into shapes that then can become part of our buildings. Like, for example, here, you know, the people were cut out and they were becoming the new perimeter that we were doing for the new parts of Garage Traversi. So it was a very simple competition, and we were kind of surprised to win it, and we are kind of very sad that it is not going on, but let's see, you know, let's see. As you see here, every project is a kind of experiment for the next, is a kind of going on and transforming for something that maybe it will be very immediate and very real, and you will have to do it whenever you don't expect it. Now we have another fantastic project in Lombardy. It's in Cologno Monzese, and here we are working very well also with the mayor of Cologno Monzese, who knows very much about urbanism and loves his city very, very much. And so I think this love is helping also the architects to make a better job and to make something which is going in a coordination to transform the place, not only making a building or making an object, but making a better place and a city that suddenly you think it's fantastic, when before it was a kind of a place which was not determined between city and countryside and little pieces of industries. Here there was an industry in this piece, but now you have here La Martesana, which is a piece of water, a fantastic piece of water. So this gives the opportunity to transform this industrial place into a place for a better life in relation with the water and in relation with public spaces and public city. But we love to work with collage, no? So this collage making kind of monsters out of the reality of Cologno were very useful to us, are still very useful to us. And we hope that this can be a kind of a new vocabulary to make us do a building which we still don't know how it will be, because it will not be copied from any other building that we have been doing before. It has some of the capacities that we have being experimented before, but it will be specifically for Cologno Monzese, it will be specifically for this area, and it will try to make this line on the water a kind of a easy life for people to come. It will make, let's say, a heart of the building open to everybody, so that this building is giving the opportunity to have a new space, and also maybe will give the possibility to have a kind of a new park usable by everybody, very well connected to the stations of the metropolitan line. So I think it's fantastic to work in a place where there is understanding from the political authority. And this, I think, is what has been happening in Santa Caterina, you know. In Santa Caterina, I was explaining that the project was a kind of miracle which needed 200 years to arrive to reality. And maybe also we are in a very nice moment here, where the desires of many people can arrive to a reality because of a good situation and a good connection. So we hope, no? This is our projects in Italy. Also, we did many competitions. I go fast because otherwise you will kill me, because it will be too much time. But here we won a second prize for a competition in Val di Susa for the TAV, the Terreno Alta Velocità. And of course, you know that it's a difficult situation. And that's why I thought maybe I could win it, because I was thinking this is so complicated that maybe they give it to me. But no, they didn't. They gave it to Kengo Kuma, and let's see if the Japanese will be able to go through all the difficulties of the Alta Velocità in Val di Susa. Our project was trying to use at the maximum the existing, the elevated train line of the train, and connecting with this other Alta Velocità line. And so we were doing the station from this crossing, let's say. So the vaults of the station itself was coming from the existing structures, the existing engineering structures, and was a little more than that. Some beautiful spaces well arranged in the surrounding, a kind of more elevated building, and these pergolas coming from the vaults of the bridge, making everybody coming inside into the space, which is, as you see, also very much relating with the architecture of the mountains, because here we are in the mountains of Piemonte, and this was our effort. You have to do a lot of these efforts. We do something like 7 or 8 competitions every year. This is terrible. You lose most of them, but sometimes you win one. And for example, we won this one, which is for a church in Ferrara. As usual, we started to look at the place and to get in love with the place. Ferrara is an incredible city. And also to play with collage, which means playing with not knowing very well where you are going. You know, you just do things, and then the client, now that we have won it, say, "Oh, but what did you mean by that?" "Oh, I don't know." But also well, I don't know. But then you take away and you formally do something, no? And these are materials coming from Enzo Cucchi. So also Enzo Cucchi is a mystery, no? We were looking at these materials only a few days ago from with the client, which means the church. And okay, I think it's nice to give a little look to Enzo Cucchi if it's possible. We have a little video.
Okay. Capire il materiale per può essere insieme congeniale al tuo e al mio, perché a me va bene tutto, va bene ceramica, ma va bene anche cemento nero, ma va bene, per esempio, va bene pietra, va bene, dipende da come a te insieme vogliamo lavorare. Vincenzo lavora col bianco, io lavoro col bianco, per me non è un problema. Se uno mi crea un problema mi fa molto piacere, ma basta che sia un problema, ma non che sia una cazzata, non te. No?
È carino, no? Vale la pena essere architetti, così conosci così tanta gente, vedi così tante situazioni, ti confronti. Io credo che mi piace essere architetto soprattutto per questo. E le situazioni che vivo sono molto divertenti. E qui non so se abbiamo fatto una cazzata, come dice Enzo Cucchi, però ci siamo divertiti a guardare queste cose che succedono a Ferrara, non solo l'architettura, la ceramica, eccetera, ma anche questo che per esempio è una delle cose che succedono una volta all'anno, si chiama il balloon, mi sembra che si chiami, no? Con queste mongolfiere fantastiche. Oh, of course. Matteo is my guide today. Thank you. This Montgolfier, and also in this time that we were doing the competition, the seismic situation was a disaster. So we said we have to do something very light, like a Montgolfiera, like a balloon, and use light materials. And that's why we started to do a roof mainly. And then going with this many collage that you have seen, there are thousands of them, many of them, we started to make a plan which was kind of making people entering towards this big roof mainly, and then entering the place, which is an amphitheater, now we are discussing with the church, and of course it's very complicated. Everything has to be molded a little bit, because a church has a ritual which you have to discover little by little. But mainly this is our church, a kind of a very light structure, wooden or bamboo structure, something like this, in Ferrara, with Enzo Cucchi interventions. So let's see what it will become. And no, this is too much. This is something we are doing also for the L'Oréal, We are working also for hairs. And of course we did, this is in Barcelona. We are under construction right now, but you see that everything is very hairy-like. A lot of curves, and it was very nice. We worked with their drawings, from the 30s till now. And of course, you have these curves all over. Maybe curves is a symbol of feminine beauty. I don't know. Probably this is the thing. But we are trying to do a place which is reminding this. And in Italy, very recently, we had the opportunity to have an exhibition in Rome, in this building that I'm sure you know perfectly well. No? It's Pietro in Montorio, San Pietro in Montorio by Bramante. I studied it with Manfredo Tafuri, so this was something very impressive to me. But they invited a painter friend of mine, who also invited me to work together with him in the academy, and they said, okay, you can do also an intervention inside the Tempietto. And I said, is it true? So we started to play with Rome, and we made an exhibition which was not about exhibiting nothing of our work, but about reinventing Rome and making a kind of a collage Rome, which then would become in scale 1:1 and would be transformed. And then what we liked very much was that the intervention inside the Tempietto was transforming the spirit of the Tempietto with a very little intervention, like making cushions with the same pavimentation of the Tempietto, so that the Tempietto itself became a kind of how do you say, chill out, usually you have this difficulty of entering the Tempietto and you don't know where to put yourself. No, Tafuri was saying, the Tempietto in fact was not to be entered. It was a totally abstract thing. But during these days of the exhibition, it became a chill out. So the children were around and they let us put some fire for the opening night. So I think this was a kind of a fantastic thing. And inside, in the galleries, together with my friend painter, we were kind of making this exhibition of transforming Rome and making Rome become more familiar, more near to us, by making it a kind of a collage and making it a kind of a home for everybody. So I think this was the result of the exhibition. I don't know if it was very well understood, but everybody seemed to be happy, and everybody seemed to be happy to find cushions during a month into the Tempietto of Bramante. And nearly in the same time, we had an opening in our office of a space which will be the Enrique Miralles Foundation. I think my late husband, Enrique Miralles, was a fantastic person. He was really incredible. Most of the people who are still in the office have been working with him. And I was always thinking to make a kind of a space dedicated to him. But I know that the archives would not be enough to make this space only working as a kind of a place to research. So this will be a place for making architecture alive and mixing with the documentary of some of the drawings of Enrique or some of the exhibitions made by Enrique, but mixing it with new ideas and new thinking in projects. And this, for example, the first exhibition was let's say sponsored by Harvard, and these are my Harvard students. And this was an exhibition which Rick did in Harvard in '93. So it's the two things together, the archives dealing with Rick, and then alive projects and alive things dealing with the same spirit of Rick. So these are the patrons of the foundation. Is Rafael Moneo, who was also one of the great teachers of Rick, Oriol Boigas, who is a fantastic architect and also, I think, a very generous master for the city of Barcelona. Mohsen Mostafavi, who is now the dean in Harvard and who was supporting me so fantastically to give me the strength to open the foundation, and Rick Miralles. And now I just telling you that the foundation is starting, and we will tell you little by little what is happening. So I thank you very much for the long lecture. Thank you to you all.